I built the app that made the company $64 million in under a year. And then they fired me. No thank you. No bonus. No handshake. Just a security guard watching me pack my things like I was a thief. One cardboard box, a cold conference room, and a manila envelope that would change everything. It happened on a Monday. The sunlight was pouring through the glass walls of the boardroom. I had just finished presenting the Q4 report, our best numbers ever. The entire team clapped. My voice was steady, but my hands trembled. I'd worked myself half to death for this. Built the product from the ground up. Wrote every line of code on a busted laptop in my studio apartment, where the heat barely worked and my neighbors screamed through the walls. And now it was the golden goose. The app that had taken over the productivity market. Investors loved it. Users swore by it. Journalists were calling it the future of freelance work. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. Marcus Lang, the CEO, didn't even look up from his phone when I sat down. He slid the envelope across the table like it was a receipt. Your services are no longer required, Jake. HR will handle the transition. Oh, and the app? It belongs to the company. Just like that. The air left my lungs. I stared at the folder, blinking. I thought it was a mistake. I thought maybe he was joking. But the security guard by the door wasn't smiling. What they didn't realize, what Marcus didn't realize, was that in their rush to erase me, they left something critical behind. I still had the original code. And I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. 16 months before that cold Monday, I was sitting alone in a gray cubicle in the back corner of Lang Tech's downtown Chicago office, eating a soggy tuna sandwich. I regretted the moment I took it out of the vending machine. I was a junior developer, undervalued, underpaid, and practically invisible. Most of my coworkers didn't even bother learning my last name. To them, I was just Jake and Dev. Back then, the company was floundering. 3 straight product failures. Morale was in the basement. Marcus was in damage control mode, strutting through meetings in $1,500 suits while the rest of us fought over whether we had enough in the budget to upgrade our testing server. Every Tuesday, he'd stroll into the common area, coffee in hand, and ask his signature question like it was a casual favor. Anybody got a game-changing idea? Nobody answered anymore. Not after the last guy who did got laid off 2 weeks later. But something inside me didn't care about that. I've been sketching an idea on napkins and whiteboards for months. An adaptive productivity tool that could analyze user behavior and optimize their workflow. Something built for freelancers, students, gig workers, people whose days didn't follow the rigid 9 to 5 model. So that Tuesday, when Marcus tossed out his question again, I swallowed a bite of that sad sandwich, wiped my hands on my jeans, and said, "I've got one." His eyebrows raised, like I'd spoken out of turn. "Let's hear it," he said with a smirk, sipping his overpriced cold brew. I gave him the elevator pitch. A smart planner that learns when you're most productive, breaks projects into micro-tasks, sends reminders that actually help you work, not just ding your phone pointlessly. Something intuitive, adaptable. A system that learned you. He chuckled and shook his head. Freelancers don't spend money, Jake. We need enterprise clients. Real revenue. But someone else in the room didn't laugh. Sarah Cho, the CTO, leaned forward. "Tell me more," she said. She had that spark in her eyes, the one that told me she wasn't just being polite. I laid out the core structure, the algorithms, the personalization engine. I didn't have a name yet, just a vision. Sarah nodded slowly. "Build a prototype," she said, "but do it in your own time. No company hours. No budget." Marcus shrugged, already halfway out the door. "Sure. Knock yourself out." That night, I pulled my old MacBook out of a drawer in my one-bedroom apartment and wrote the first line of code. I was still wearing my office badge when I started, hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer energy of it. Like I just unlocked something. Like all the frustration and wasted potential of the past few years had been compressed into a laser beam, and I was finally aiming it at something worth hitting. I worked until 3:47 a.m. that first night, then again the next night, and the one after that. I started bringing a second thermos of coffee to work just so I could stay awake during morning stand-ups. My weekends disappeared. My social life vanished. Friends stopped texting. My landlord wondered if I was even alive. But piece by piece, the app came to life. After 3 months, I had a prototype. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. I called it Rover because it followed your workflow, mapped your habits, guided you like a loyal companion through your messiest deadlines. I built an onboarding wizard, a learning module, and a simple dashboard. I didn't tell anyone at work. Not yet. I wanted real feedback first. So I hit the college forums, posted flyers around University of Illinois, DM'd Reddit users and productivity subs. I offered beta access for free and promised nothing, except that I'd listen. And then something crazy happened. The users came. First 50, then 500, then 5,000. And they loved it. This app saved my thesis, one student wrote. I've never felt more in control, said another. I got emails at 2 a.m. from exhausted undergrads saying they'd finally found something that understood how their brain worked. I read every message, every bug report, every feature request. I responded to each one like it mattered because it did. These were real people, and they were telling me the app wasn't just functional. It was essential. I was running support, development, and marketing all on my own. In secret, at night. My apartment looked like a hacker's den. Sticky notes on every surface, whiteboard scribbles on the walls, half-eaten bowls of ramen next to my keyboard. And I couldn't stop smiling. I was building something real. I was becoming something real. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have predicted, was that Marcus and his cronies were watching the entire time. Waiting, smiling at me in meetings while quietly sharpening the knives behind closed doors. They saw what I was building, and they were already plotting how to steal it. The first time I realized something was off was during the Tech Vision conference in San Francisco. I had no business being there. Not really. Technically, I was just tagging along as Marcus Lang's assistant. That's what he called it. Jake, you'll be my right-hand man at the booth. Just take notes, help with the slide deck, keep things smooth. Translation, carry his bag, fetch his coffee, and nod like a bobblehead during investor meetings. I didn't care. I was too busy tracking Rover's latest surge in signups. Now, well past 20,000 users. Growth was exponential, and the feedback was addictively glowing. I remember standing backstage at the venue, nervously refreshing the app dashboard on my phone, when Marcus strutted in like he owned the world. He was wearing one of those tailored navy blue suits that cost more than my rent and flashing his usual fake humility smile, the kind he practiced in mirrors and wore like a shield. I thought I was there to support him. I had no idea I was about to witness a betrayal that would split my life in two. The announcer's voice boomed across the packed auditorium. Please welcome to the stage Marcus Lang, CEO of Lang Tech, with an exclusive unveiling of their latest AI-powered productivity platform for the modern freelancer. My heart stuttered. I turned to Marcus as he adjusted his lapel and winked at me. Time to make some noise, he said. And then, I saw it. As the opening slide appeared on the towering screen, I felt my chest tighten. It was my app, Rover. The same dashboard I had spent hundreds of hours designing. The same user testimonials from beta testers. The same visual flow I had stayed up nights refining. But it was stripped of its soul. My name wasn't anywhere. Not on the slides, not in the credits, not even in the fine print. Just the company's logo slapped over my creation like graffiti on stained glass. Marcus walked across the stage, arms wide, as if greeting old friends. At Lang Tech, we believe freelancers are the future, he began, which is why our team has spent the last year developing a revolutionary solution, an intelligent scheduling platform that adapts to your needs, your habits, your lifestyle. Our team, we spent the last year. My blood boiled. I was still fixing bugs 2 nights ago with a migraine and a bag of frozen peas on my neck, while Marcus had been sipping cocktails and taking selfies with VCs. I scanned the audience. Dozens of venture capitalists, product managers, media reps, all nodding, impressed. Some leaned forward, eyes wide with interest. There were gasps when he demoed the AI-generated task maps. Applause when he showed the adaptive learning feature. He was stealing my thunder and turning it into his empire. From the back row, I watched the crowd eat it up. People clapped. People cheered. People tweeted. And I just stood there, motionless, my fists clenched behind my back, my jaw set so tight I thought I might crack a molar. Across the room, I caught Sergio's eyes. She was seated in the front row, applauding politely, but her expression flickered, just for a moment, with something between guilt and discomfort. She knew. She had seen me code this thing, had encouraged me back in that conference room when nobody else did. But she wasn't going to stand up. Not in front of this audience. Not against Marcus. I could see it in her eyes, silent acknowledgement, but not a word of defense. When the presentation ended, the standing ovation lasted a full 30 seconds. Marcus waved like a politician, then descended into a pit of flashing cameras and outstretched hands. I was invisible again, just the assistant with a clipboard standing beside the man who just committed professional identity theft on a global stage. That night, alone in my hotel room, I sat on the carpet with my laptop open, listening to the hum of the minibar fridge and the distant honk of cable cars outside. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I replayed the presentation in my head over and over, each time feeling like I'd swallowed a brick. But something else was brewing inside me too. Not just anger. Not just betrayal. Resolve. They might have stolen my credit, but they couldn't steal the truth. And they sure as hell couldn't steal what was coming next. Because while Marcus was busy basking in applause, he had overlooked one fatal detail. The foundation of Rover, every core module, every algorithm, every machine learning engine, had been built on my GitHub account using my laptop with my credentials long before the company ever touched a single line of code. And if they thought I was going to disappear quietly, they didn't know me at all. I should have read the paperwork. That's the thought that kept haunting me as I sat in the HR office 2 months after the conference, watching Janet from legal flip through a stack of printed documents with the casual cheer of someone ordering lunch. "It's just some routine contract updates," she said, sliding a pen across the desk toward me. "Company restructure, some tweaks to benefit terms, standard compliance stuff. Nothing major." I was exhausted that day, burned out from fixing a synchronization bug in the app's backend that had kept me up for 3 nights straight. I had bags under my eyes, a half-eaten protein bar in my coat pocket, and a GitHub tab still open on my personal laptop at home. My brain was too fogged to argue. I skimmed the contract. Or rather, I thought I did. It all looked like legal gibberish. Pages of clauses about office supplies, email policies, and PTO accrual rates. Nothing jumped out. Nothing screamed danger. Janet smiled like a nurse handing me a flu shot. So I signed. Right there, in blue ink. And just like that, I handed them the knife they'd eventually use to stab me in the back. 6 months later, that signature came roaring back like a ghost with a vendetta. Because buried on page 14, subsection C, clause 7, wedged between language about parking permits and equipment usage, was a landmine. A single paragraph that stated, in no uncertain terms, that any intellectual property developed during the course of employment, including projects initiated outside work hours, shall become the sole and exclusive property of Lang Tech upon commercial deployment. That clause didn't just take my app. It took my name off of it. It took my sweat, my insomnia, my sacrifice, and legally handed it over to a man who once told me he didn't think freelancers were worth building for. I only found it because I hired a lawyer, Rebecca Lynn, an IP attorney with a razor-sharp mind and the expression of someone who's been through enough courtrooms to smell blood in the water before anyone else does. "This clause," she said, tapping her red pen on the paper like a judge banging a gavel, "is buried for a reason. They knew you wouldn't read every word. They counted on that." I sat there, stunned. "So I lost everything?" Just like that. Rebecca leaned back in her chair and gave me a look that stopped my heart for a second. Cool, calculating, and just a little bit hungry. "Not necessarily," she said. "Tell me how the app was built. Every detail." And I did. I told her how I started coding it months before Lang Tech even knew it existed. How I used my own laptop, my own IDE, my own cloud storage. How the original GitHub repo, the real repo, still lived under my personal account, time-stamped, version-controlled, clean. She smiled. "Good. That's your anchor. If the foundational code was developed outside their ecosystem, on your equipment, using no company resources, then the clause can be contested. Especially if you can prove that their product is a derivative of your original." I felt a flicker of hope. "But," she continued, her voice dropping, "we have to move carefully. If they sense what you're planning, they'll hit back hard. NDA threats, cease and desists, maybe even try to bury you in legal fees. Then let's move quiet, I said, like a ghost in their system. The first step was reclaiming my code. Late that night, I logged into GitHub from my apartment. The original repo was still there, pristine, untouched, holding every version from the very first line to the full-scale beta. I revoked LangTech's access with one click. The second step was documenting everything. Emails, code commits, design drafts, beta test logs. Rebecca built a timeline tighter than a drum, showing exactly how and when my app came to life, independently of LangTech. The third step was waiting. Because revenge, like Rebecca said, is most powerful when the other side still thinks they've won. A week later, LangTech's servers began to wobble. Not crash, just falter. User login errors. Scheduling sync glitches. AI predictions producing gibberish. The app was gasping, like a machine unplugged just slightly from the wall. Marcus called an emergency all-hands meeting. According to Sarah, who still slipped me the occasional update and encrypted messages, he was red-faced and screaming, demanding answers. What the hell is happening to our infrastructure? Sarah tried to explain. The foundational code wasn't ours. It was Jake's. He revoked the license. What do you mean it wasn't ours? We own it. No, she said quietly. We just thought we did. Marcus went ballistic. I watched from my apartment window as the stock tickers began to slide. Not free fall, but a slow, ominous decline. And I knew, as sure as I knew the lines of code still etched into my brain, that this was just the beginning. They stole my work. Now, they were about to pay for it. At first, it was just a whisper. A comment thread here. A Reddit post there. A quiet message in a private Slack channel. People talking. Not loudly, not publicly, but enough to send ripples through the surface of LangTech's carefully polished image. Wait, wasn't that app originally Jake's side project? I think he built the prototype before LangTech even touched it. He hired me to beta test it back in the day. Paid me from his personal Venmo. None of it was coordinated. I hadn't asked anyone to speak up, but they did anyway, because they remembered. They remembered late-night Zoom calls and bug hunts, feedback loops, and brainstorming sessions where I asked them, not for money, but for belief. And now, they were remembering it out loud. I watched from behind my laptop screen as the noise grew louder. The freelancer community is tight-knit. It's the kind of underground economy built on respect, hustle, and trust. And when they realized that one of their own had been steamrolled by a glossy corporate suit, they didn't get mad. They got organized. Twitter started it. One thread from a design student at Northwestern, who said the app helped her finish her final project, blew up overnight. I worked with Jake directly. He was the real deal. He built that app. Then came Medium articles. Screenshots of early emails I'd sent. Side-by-side comparisons of my original UI mockups and the sanitized corporate version LangTech presented at TechVision. People were connecting the dots without my help. And that's when I realized something crucial. Marcus might have owned the microphones, but I had the crowd. By Friday, TechCrunch published a short piece with a headline. Did LangTech SEO steal his star product from a junior developer? It was speculative, cautious, couched in legal safe language, but the story had broken. And once it did, there was no unbreaking it. I didn't say a word to the press. Not yet. Let them tell the story in fragments. Let the tension simmer. Rebecca's strategy was clear. Let them come to you. Meanwhile, inside LangTech, panic was blooming like mold in a locked cellar. Sarah texted me from her private line. Marcus is losing it. Screamed at legal for 45 minutes. Wants PR to shut this down. But nobody knows how. They'd built the whole brand around transparency and innovation. Now the public was seeing something different. Theft, silence, and fear. Then came an email. It arrived on a Sunday morning. Subject line. From one founder to another. Let's talk. I recognized the name instantly. Victoria Sterling, head of product at OrionWorks, LangTech's biggest competitor. Her message was short, direct, and utterly thrilling. We followed your story. We believe in giving creators credit. Let's fund you. Build the version of the app you always meant to. Name your price, your team, your timeline. I read it 3 times. The temptation was almost painful. This wasn't just an offer. It was a lifeline dipped in gold. The dream every bootstrap developer fantasizes about. But I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I saved the email in a folder I labeled options. Because something in me had shifted. I wasn't here just to move on. I was here to finish something. LangTech hadn't just stolen my app. They tried to erase me. And the world was beginning to realize it. The tipping point came a few days later. LangTech was scheduled to participate in a live industry panel titled Ethics in Innovation. Who owns what we build? Irony, as it turns out, isn't dead. I was one of the panelists, invited last minute after the TechCrunch article made waves. They wanted balance, they said. I gave them something better. I wore a gray blazer, jeans, no tie. Casual, clean, confident. Marcus sat 3 chairs away from me, lips tight, hands gripping the armrest like he was holding onto the last edge of cliff. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't attack. I didn't accuse. I didn't need to. I recently experienced a situation, I said calmly into the mic, where I built something out of passion in my own time with my own tools, only to watch it be claimed, monetized, and presented by someone else as their own. I've learned that in tech, you can protect your code. But protecting your credit, that takes a community. The audience didn't clap. They froze. Processing. Connecting dots. Looking down at their phones to check tweets, articles, screenshots. When a moderator turned to Marcus and asked, "How does LangTech ensure its developers receive recognition for their contributions?" He stammered. We emphasize teamwork. Share goals. Success isn't about one person." But nobody was listening anymore. That night, the panel video hit YouTube. Within 24 hours, it had 200,000 views. By the weekend, the hashtag #BuiltByJake was trending in 3 countries. LangTech tried to post a response. Some boilerplate nonsense about internal reviews and supporting innovation. The comments section buried them in fury. And me? I sat in my tiny apartment, sipping gas station coffee from my chipped mug, staring out the skyline. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt inevitable. It started with a glitch. Just a small hiccup in the login system. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would make headlines. But for LangTech, a company whose image rested on flawless performance and investor confidence, even the smallest error was like blood in the water. By the time the support team flagged the issue, the AI scheduling module had started returning nonsense outputs. One user reported the app told them their optimal work time was between 3 o'clock and 3:11 a.m. Another said it auto-scheduled 4 meetings simultaneously. Support tickets piled up. App Store reviews began to sour. At first, it was minor. Then it snowballed. Because without me, without the person who had written every behavioral pattern loop, every adaptive module, every invisible string holding the user experience together, LangTech didn't have a product. They had a shell, and their shell was cracking. Marcus called an emergency all-hands meeting that Friday. Sarah filled me in afterward, texting from the bathroom between back-to-back conference room battles. He's in meltdown mode, yelling about sabotage, threatening to sue GitHub. Legal had to remind him we don't even own the original repo. I smiled to myself and minimized the chat window. I didn't need to gloat. The code was doing it for me. Meanwhile, the whispers had turned into roars. My inbox flooded daily. Developers, students, journalists, podcasters, all reaching out, all wanting the same thing, the truth. But the real truth? I wasn't focused on revenge anymore. I was building something new. In a quiet corner of a co-working space on the west side, I put together a skeleton crew. People I trusted, people who didn't just see me as the guy who got screwed by the system, but as a builder, a thinker, a leader. 3 devs, 1 designer, 1 marketing strategist who used to run campaigns for nonprofits. We weren't flashy, but we were focused. I named the new app Flow State. It was everything Rover was meant to be: cleaner, smarter, faster. The onboarding was seamless. The AI wasn't just adaptive, it was intuitive. The interface felt like water. Nothing hard, nothing clunky. Just clarity and movement. We didn't cut corners. We didn't guess. We built with obsession. Every user interaction was logged, and refined. Every line of code was vetted twice. Every pixel had a purpose. At night, I walked home past the old Lang Tech headquarters downtown. Their giant LED signs still pulsed with the brand's blue and white logo, but I knew it was a dying light. Inside, engineers were scrambling to patch holes they didn't understand. Marcus was trying to buy time in boardrooms that no longer respected him. And the best part? He didn't even know I was coming. Rebecca, my lawyer, played the long game. We didn't accept their first settlement offer, or the second, or the third. They started lowballing, offering hush money with airtight NDAs. I let each offer rot in my inbox, because I wasn't here to settle. I was here to win. And then, one day, the phone rang. It was the Journal, a full-length feature. They wanted the exclusive on Flow State, on the rise, the betrayal, and the quiet war brewing behind closed doors. I agreed, under one condition. Every contributor who helped me build it got named. No anonymous credit. No erasure. Not this time. The article went live on a Tuesday morning. The headline read, "The developer who outsmarted the system and built something better." It spread like wildfire. Lang Tech's stock dropped 12% in a single afternoon. Their board issued a statement that was supposed to sound confident, but read like a resignation letter. Users deleted the app in droves, citing instability, crashes, lack of updates. Their App Store rating sank from 4.8 to 3.2 in less than 2 weeks. And Flow State? We hadn't even launched yet, and already we had a wait list of 80,000 users. Investors came knocking. Journalists called daily. Victoria from Orion Works reached out again, this time with a grin in her voice. "We're still here when you're ready to go nuclear." But I wasn't chasing revenge. I was chasing relevance, the kind that lasts. In every team meeting, I said the same thing. We're not here to punish. We're here to prove that doing things the right way isn't just ethical, it's profitable. The world was listening. The morning we soft-launched Flow State to our private beta group, I watched in real time as users flooded the server. Not a single crash, not a single complaint, just messages like, "This feels like it was made for me. I didn't know software could think like this. This is what Rover should have been." I turned off my monitor and sat in silence for a while. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I was ready. Marcus had stolen my work, but I had taken something he'd never get back. Control. And I was just getting started. Launch day felt like Christmas morning, and Judgment Day rolled into one. We pushed the final build of Flow State to the servers at 6 a.m. sharp. I sat at my corner desk in our co-working space, sipping black coffee from the same chipped mug I'd used since my Rover days, watching the live dashboard as thousands of pre-registered users downloaded the app in real time. The graph shot up like a rocket. 10,000 installs in the first hour. 50,000 by lunch. The number didn't scare me. What scared me, what thrilled me, was that every single one of those people came here for us. No hype machine. No billion-dollar PR agency. Just word of mouth, reputation, and something you can't fake. Truth. Our servers held. The onboarding ran flawlessly. User feedback poured in like rainwater through a busted roof. Overwhelming, chaotic, beautiful. And the comments? They weren't just about features. They were personal. "This app understands me. I've used a dozen planners. Nothing feels this intuitive. Built by someone who clearly knows how people really work." No mention of Marcus. No comparison to Lang Tech. Just us. Just Flow State. The Verge ran an editorial that afternoon. Flow State is the app Silicon Valley wouldn't let happen, but it did. TechCrunch followed with, "Jake Thompson's comeback is the redemption arc every developer needs." By sunset, we had 150,000 users. But across town, in a glass-walled conference room filled with nervous energy and downcast stares, Marcus Lang was watching a very different dashboard. Lang Tech's user base was shrinking fast. Their app, once perched at the top of the productivity charts, was now sitting at a measly 3.0 rating. The most recent review read, "Used to be solid. Now it's glitchy, bloated, and lifeless. Switched to Flow State. Way better." Worse yet, investors had started circling, but not like sharks, like vultures. One leaked email from Patricia Wu, lead partner at Horizon Capital, went viral after someone forwarded it to the press. We're not funding broken promises. We're funding builders. And Jake Thompson is clearly the builder. And just like that, the house of cards Marcus built began to fall. The shareholder meeting that Friday was supposed to be routine. It turned into a bloodbath. According to a former Langtech executive who now worked, incidentally, for me, Marcus spent most of the 2-hour meeting dodging questions, sweating through his suit, and making excuses so flimsy they could have been used as tissue paper. How do we let a single developer walk away with the entire IP foundation? Why wasn't there proper succession planning? Why didn't we offer him equity when he built the damn thing? The board didn't need answers. They already knew. At 3:42 p.m., a press release quietly hit the wire. Langtech announces leadership transition. CEO Marcus Lang steps down, effective immediately. I read it once, then again, not with glee, but with closure. The man who fired me without blinking was now packing his own office into a cardboard box. Same security guard, same bitter silence, same walk of shame I took 11 months earlier. But now it was my turn to walk tall. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring, voice soft and surprised. "Jake, everything okay?" "Better than okay," I said, voice cracking slightly. "I just wanted you to know I made it. For real this time." There was a long pause. Then, "I always knew you would. I just hated watching you suffer on the way." I didn't cry. Not right then. But I felt something inside me loosen, like a knot untying after years of being pulled tighter and tighter. The next day, FlowState hit 500,000 users. Our servers were stretched thin, but our team was high on adrenaline. Rebecca dropped by the office with a bottle of champagne and a signed letter from the USPTO confirming that the copyright on the original Rover codebase was now officially registered to me, under my name, with legal protections so strong that even the boldest corporate lawyer wouldn't touch it without gloves. "You've got the crown now," she said, grinning. "Don't drop it." I didn't plan to. Later that week, a journalist from Wired asked to profile me. I agreed, but with one rule. The piece had to include every single person who'd helped me build FlowState. No erasure. No whitewashing. Not this time. And on the last page of that article, right below a photo of me and my crew, arms crossed in front of a whiteboard filled with scribbles and dreams, the caption read, "Sometimes, the people who get thrown away are the ones you should have bet on." I framed it, not for revenge, but for remembrance. Because this wasn't just a comeback. It was a declaration. And we were just getting started. The email came on a Friday afternoon. Quiet, unassuming, like it wasn't about to light a fuse beneath everything I'd built. Subject line, confidential settlement proposal. The sender? Marcus Lang, or more likely, his attorneys. The PDF attached was neatly formatted, bullet-pointed, and written in that cold, lawyerly tone that says, "This is just business, even when it's anything but." In exchange for amicable resolution, Langtech was offering me $2 million and a full non-disclosure agreement. $2 million to erase the story. $2 million to pretend FlowState had nothing to do with betrayal, theft, or retribution. $2 million to stop talking, to stop inspiring others to speak up. I read it once, then again, slower this time. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insulting. $2 million wouldn't buy a single line of code back. It wouldn't rebuild the years I spent in a studio apartment eating cup noodles while chasing a dream no one else believed in. It wouldn't rewrite the night Marcus stole my spotlight or the morning I walked out of Langtech like a ghost. I didn't even bother responding. Instead, I took a screenshot of the offer, careful to blur any legal identifiers, and posted it on Twitter with one sentence. Someone thinks silence can be bought. It can't. The internet erupted. Within hours, hashtag silence is not for sale was trending across the U.S. developers, freelancers, startup founders. They all chimed in, not just to support me, but to share their stories. Stories of exploitation, of erasure, of ideas stolen by executives who'd never written a line of code in their lives. It wasn't just about me anymore. I'd become a symbol, and symbols don't take payoffs. Rebecca called that evening. "Bold move," she said, though her voice held a smile. You just declared war in front of half of Silicon Valley. Good, I said. Let them come. But they didn't come. They crumbled. Within a week, 3 other former Langtech employees came forward with nearly identical stories. Side projects absorbed by the company, credited to executives, and then scrubbed of the original creators' names. One woman, a brilliant back-end engineer, revealed internal emails showing she was deliberately pushed out once her work hit production. Another revealed she'd been offered a similar hush-money deal, only for less. And now, the press had a pattern. Wired ran a piece titled, Langtech's Dirty Blueprint, Exploit, Erase, Replace. The fallout was nuclear. Langtech's board resigned in stages. First the CFO, then the VP of product, then the entire legal team. Their app rating dropped below 2.0. Investors jumped ship. Marcus went dark on social media. Even his LinkedIn profile vanished. Meanwhile, FlowState exploded. We hit 1 million users in just over 3 weeks. New features rolled out like clockwork. Real-time collaboration. Calendar integrations. Mood tracking. We didn't just build a better app. We built a community. A movement. And then came the moment I never expected. A letter. Handwritten. It arrived at the FlowState office in a cream-colored envelope. No return address. Just my name on the front in tight cursive. Inside was a single page. Neatly folded. No apology. No excuses. Just 5 words, written in Marcus's unmistakable handwriting. You won. I lost everything. I stared at it for a long time. Not with joy. Not even with satisfaction. Just clarity. Because in that moment, I realized I never wanted Marcus to lose everything. I just wanted my name back. My voice. My right to be the author of my own story. That weekend, we hosted FlowState's first live virtual summit, an event designed not to pitch investors, but to elevate builders. I opened the conference with a keynote. No flashy graphics. No suit. Just a microphone and a black hoodie. I looked directly into the camera and said, we started FlowState because we believed people deserve better. Not just better tools, but better treatment. This isn't just about code. It's about credit. It's about courage. It's about every developer who's ever been told to stay quiet, to take the paycheck, to sign the NDA. Well, not anymore. The audience, thousands of faces across hundreds of video tiles, erupted into applause. I ended with a simple line. This isn't revenge. This is renaissance. And we're just getting started. After the stream, we got over 4,000 job applications. Not because we were the biggest tech company, but because we stood for something. We turned a stolen app into a global platform. We turned silence into thunder. And we turned a Friday afternoon email into the rallying cry of a generation. There's a strange quiet that follows massive success. It's not silence exactly. There are still meetings to run, deadlines to hit, feedback to review, but the roar that once filled every hour of my life had begun to soften. FlowState had launched in 6 new countries that month. We were officially live in the UK, Canada, India, Germany, Australia, and Brazil. And the numbers, they were ridiculous. Our growth charts looked like hockey sticks. Every investor wanted a piece. The same ones that once ignored my cold emails were now forwarding term sheets with terms that could have made me dizzy a year ago. But I didn't feel dizzy. I felt distant. Maybe it was because I hadn't had a day off in 14 months. Or maybe it was because I kept waking up every morning wondering if I was chasing the right kind of legacy or just outrunning my past. I stared out the window of our new office, floor 15 of a downtown building that used to house Langtech, ironically enough, and wondered if this was what winning was supposed to feel like. It didn't feel like revenge anymore. It felt like, wait, that's when the letter arrived. Not an email. A real, physical envelope. Cream paper, gold trim. From Stanford University, addressed to Jake Thompson. Inside was a handwritten note from a student named Jessica Park, a senior in computer science. Dear Mr. Thompson, I don't know if this will ever reach you, but I wanted to thank you. Your story gave me the courage to speak up. I built a machine learning model for my final thesis, but my supervisor tried to publish it under his own name. Everyone told me to stay quiet, to take the credit behind the scenes. But I remember what you said at the FlowState Summit. If your name isn't on it, it's not yours. I reported him. The university took action. He was dismissed, and I got my name on my work. Thank you for showing me that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. With respect, Jessica. I read it 3 times, then just sat there, holding it like something fragile. It hit me harder than the TechCrunch feature, harder than the $50 million valuation, harder than Marcus's resignation. Because it wasn't about a product or a company anymore. It was about impact. That night, I walked through the office long after the team had left. The lights were dim, the streets outside glowing with taillights and soft neon. Our mission statement was stenciled in chrome letters on the far wall. Flow state, where creators stay in control. For the first time, I really felt those words. But the next morning, everything shifted again. Rebecca called me in her office, her tone unusually serious. "We need to talk," she said, pushing a document across the table. "It's from the Department of Justice. Looks like the SEC probe into Langtech's numbers is escalating." I skimmed the report. Fraud, fabricated user counts, misreported revenue, a class action suit on the horizon. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt tired. Marcus was facing real consequences now. Possible criminal charges, banned from holding executive positions. But it didn't bring me peace. Because I realized something in that moment. Winning against someone is not the same as building something for someone. I thanked Rebecca and stepped outside, letting the cold air cut through the fog in my head. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Victoria Sterling. Again, only this time, she wasn't calling to pitch an investment. She was calling to offer me something else. "Jake," she said, "Orion Works is creating an incubator, a think tank for future of work solutions. Global reach, billion-dollar resources. We want you to run it." I paused. "Run it?" "Yes. You'd oversee a portfolio of tools designed to empower freelancers, educators, digital creators. Flow state would remain yours, of course. But this would be bigger. Influence, policy, infrastructure-level change. You could shape the tools people use every day for decades." It was tempting. More than tempting. It was legacy, but it would mean stepping away. Not from flow state entirely, but from the ground floor. From the bug reports. The user comments. The code. "I'll think about it," I said. After we hung up, I stood by the window and looked across the street. Langtech's old HQ. Now dark, half-vacant. The same windows where I used to feel small. Invisible. Replaceable. Now I was being asked to lead an empire of my own. I looked down at Jessica's letter one more time. This wasn't just about what I could build next. It was about what I could inspire next. And maybe, just maybe, that mattered more. The day I made my decision, it was raining. Not the dramatic, thunder-cracking kind they use in movies. Just a slow, gray drizzle over the Chicago skyline, washing the streets in reflection. It was the kind of rain that made everything quieter, like the city was holding its breath. And maybe in some way I was too. I stood in the center of the Flow State office, alone, long before the team would arrive. No noise, no Slack notifications, no investor emails flashing across my screen. Just me. A decade's worth of ambition and scars wrapped up in this one room. On the far wall was the mission statement I'd helped write. Where creators stay in control. Below it hung Jessica's letter in a black frame. And next to that, the first post-it I'd written during the earliest days of Rover, when the idea wasn't even a product yet, just a hope I couldn't let go of. The ink had faded, but I still knew the words by heart. Don't let them define you. Victoria's offer sat on my desk, printed and crisp. It was a real seat at the table, a platform that could amplify every idea I'd ever dreamed of. But it came with a cost. Not a sinister one, just a human one. If I said yes, I'd have to step back from flow state. From the late nights reading bug reports with one eye open. From replying to users by name. From building not just code, but culture. The kind that doesn't show up on quarterly reports but stays in people's bones. I turned to the glass doors that led to my office. On them, in simple lettering, was my name. Jake Thompson, founder and CEO. That name meant something now. It wasn't about ego. It was about authorship. About taking the thing they try to steal from me and carving it into something permanent. Something untouchable. I thought of Marcus, where he might be now. His profile still hadn't reappeared. He'd become a ghost in an industry that once called him visionary. Some said he'd moved to Florida. Others whispered about indictments. But I no longer cared. Not out of forgiveness. Out of freedom. He no longer held space in the architecture of my mind. I picked up the phone and called Victoria. She answered on the second ring, chipper as always. "Jake," she said, "tell me you're ready to change the world." "I already am," I replied, "and I think I need to keep doing it my way." There was a pause. Then, respect. "I'll stay in touch," I said, and meant it. That afternoon, I gathered the team. Not for an announcement, not for a product update, but for a conversation. We sat in a loose circle on the office floor, laptops closed, phones flipped face down. Just voices. Just truth. I had an opportunity to leave, I told them. A big one. But I didn't take it. Because I realized something. What we've built here isn't just code or features or market share. It's trust. It's ours. And I'm not done building it yet. They didn't clap. They didn't need to. Their silence was full of understanding. That night, I stayed late. I walked the halls again, touched the backs of chairs, looked at the smudges on the whiteboards that hadn't been erased since sprint planning 2 months ago. Every mark told a story. Flow state wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to all of us. And that, I realized, was the point. At 11:13 p.m., I sat down at my desk, opened a blank document, and began writing the next mission statement. Not for the company, but for myself. Legacy isn't what you build. It's who remembers that you built it. I saved the file, closed my laptop, and before I left, I did one last thing. I peeled the vinyl letters off the glass door that read Jake Thompson, CEO, and replaced them with 3 new words. Built by Jake, because now the world knew, and I didn't need a title anymore. If this story moved you, if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or had your work taken without credit, then drop a comment below and let your voice be heard. Have you ever built something only to watch someone else take the credit? Tell your story. We're listening. And if you're someone chasing your own vision, building late at night when no one's watching, this channel is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story that proves one thing. Real builders can't be erased, because the future, it belongs to the ones who don't quit.